Alright, what's going on, y'all? Been a minute, but for this video, we're gonna be doing tier 7 of the conspiracy theory iceberg. Pretty good progress. I think we only got like three more tiers after this. So, yeah, pretty good. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. So first off, we have Aztec theogony. Ancient Aztec religion was a complex interaction of gods, dates, directions, and colors, and it seems that most of the preoccupation in the religion had to do with the fear of nature and the fear of the end of the world. According to ancient Aztec religion, it took the gods 5 tries to create the world, and the attempts were foiled because of infighting amongst themselves. The first creator, Tezcatlipoca, turned into a jaguar and destroyed the world, and under similar circumstances, the world was created and then destroyed with wind and then 2 floods. But basically, long story short, their religion is very interesting. It was highly focused on keeping nature in balance, and one false step from one of the gods could lead to a natural disaster. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. The rapture already happened. Now, this is the view that the rapture, which is the transformation and catching up of all devout Christians, dead or alive, would be snatched from the earth and meet with Jesus Christ in heaven. And there's the idea that it all happened already. It was a secret. Nobody knew, nobody witnessed it. It just already happened. And the rest of us are just, pieces of shit. It's just a theory, guys. It's just a theory. It's okay. Moon built by aliens. The theory accepted by most scientists about the origin of the moon is that the Earth, barely formed, collided with another body almost the size of Mars, and it is believed that a piece of our planet broke off and is now the moon. But Aristotle wrote that the area of Arcadia, or Greece, before being inhabited by the Greeks, was populated by Pelasgians, who occupied these territories before the moon was in the sky. And for this reason, Pelasgians were also called pro-moon, meaning before the moon. There's just a lot more ancient writings that hint that there was no moon in the sky a long time ago. The parrot. The parrot is a reconstruction of Berriman and Turner's original local imaging technique image produced by Cambridge Computing Lab at some point in 1963. This image, along with several others, inadvertently produced the most infamously quote-unquote Langford's basilisk, and apparently just viewing this image can crash the human brain. The image I'm showing you apparently does not usually produce any immediate effect, but is usually triggered several days later upon viewing any repetitive image that triggers the memory into recalling the original. Damn, you're done for, man. You're done for. 7 days. 7 days, dude. Grider's Endgame. William Harold Grider was an American journalist and author who wrote primarily about economics, and he's most well known for a book called Secrets of the Temple: How the Federal Reserve Runs the Country, which chronicles the history of the Federal Reserve, especially from 1979 to 1987, under the chairmanship of Paul Volcker during the presidencies of Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. And he talks a lot about basically secret societies in the Federal Reserve and secretly run the country. Soy spraying. Now, soy is a waste product produced by the refining of the soybean oil, and it is usually in conventional cooking sprays, and it serves as an agent that prevents ingredients from separating. Now, a lot of people believe that soy lowers testosterone and increases estrogen, and there are some groups of people out there that think that it is being spread into food in order to make, men more woman-like, or have more estrogen. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that are pissed because they think soy is being put into their food and increasing their estrogen. 2012 Mayan prophecy shift. The 2012 phenomenon was a range of beliefs that a cataclysmic or transformative events would occur around December 2012, and it was regarded as the end date of a 5,000-year-long cycle on the Mesoamerican long count calendar. Various astronomical alignments were proposed for this date, and a New Age interpretation held that the date marked the start of a period during which the Earth and its inhabitants would undergo positive physical or spiritual transformation, and that legend based on the historical Johann Georg Faust. Long story short, Faust is bored and depressed with his life as a scholar, and after an attempt to take his own life, he calls on the devil for further knowledge and magic powers with which to indulge all the pleasure and knowledge in the world. In response, the devil's representative appears, and he makes a bargain with Faust. The devil's representative will serve Faust with magic powers for a set number of years, but at the end of the term, the devil will claim Faust's soul, and he will be eternally enslaved. During the term of the bargain, Faust makes use of the devil's representative in a number of ways. And there are different versions of this story, but basically Faust seduces an innocent girl named Gretchen, whose life is ultimately destroyed when she gives birth to Faust's bastard son. Realizing this unholy act, she drowns a child and is held for murder. However, Gretchen's innocence saves her in the end, and she enters heaven after execution. There are different renditions in this ending, but in some, Faust is saved by God due to a combination of Gretchen's pleadings with God, and in other tales, Faust is irrevocably corrupted and believes his sins cannot be forgiven, and when the term ends, the devil carries him off to hell. Now, this is just the idea that it was actually a true story. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Good story, but who knows? Could be true. Hypersigil. The term hypersigil is used to refer to an extended work of art with magical meaning and willpower, created using the adapted process of sigilization. For example, the movie Hereditary comes across as a hypersigil because of the offering to King Payman. So you could kind of think of the offering in the movie is the hypersigil to King Payman, but the actual movie itself is still a hypersigil to King Payman. It's like man, this shit is hard to explain it, but you get it. You get it, right? Yeah, you get it. Bicameralism. Bicameralism is the condition of being divided into two chambers. It is a controversial hypothesis in psychology and neuroscience which argues that the human mind once operated in a state in which cognitive functions were divided between one part of the brain, which appears to be speaking, and a second part of the brain that would listen and obey, or a bicameral mind, and that the evolutionary breakdown of this division gave rise into consciousness in humans. To break it down, a lot of people believe that before the second millennia BCE, the human mind was split between two sides. One side gave commands, while the other obeyed these commands, and humans with a bicameral mind were incapable of introspection and consciousness. Ground heat dissipation. Now, this is just the theory that the Earth is heated by a giant machine or machines. No core, no inner core, no outer core, none of that horse shit that you learned in class, but giant machines. Ooh. Amazon rainforest was built. The Amazon rainforest stretches more than 2 million square miles and has an estimated 390 billion trees. And humans have inhabited the Amazon for roughly 13,000 years and have been domesticating plants there for at least 8,000 years. And recent archaeological studies, especially in the last 2 decades, show that indigenous populations in the past were more numerous and more complex and had a greater impact on the large and most biodiverse tropical rainforest in the world. A study took place in 2013 in the Amazon to identify more than 16,000 different species among 390 billion individual plants, and they noticed that over half of the total trees made up just over 1% of the species. To put it simply, there are researchers there that believe that humans domesticated different species of plants due to the fact that they were far from the areas where they first arose, leading to speculation that humans transported them to cultivate them elsewhere, or in the Amazon, which is why people think it was man-made. It's big as hell, though. Staring anxiety. I think I found the right one, but this is, according to research, young people who spend 7 hours a day or more looking at screens are more than twice as likely to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety than those who use screens for an hour a day. You can get anxiety from being on the internet for too long. Did you know that? How long have you been on YouTube, man? You got anxiety, bro. It's okay. Gatekeeper's remorse. Now, this list is 28 books written by authors that were responsible in shifting the collective understanding of different aspects of society, science, finance, economics, psychology, and the occult. These books are late-stage writings, usually found in the latter years of those prominent writers' careers, that are considered to be remorseful reflections and hidden gems to guide truth seekers back to the right direction. It's like a collection of books from these different authors. Ancient Structures Purpose. Short one here. This one just involves a speculation on the actual purpose of ancient structures, pyramids, Easter Island heads, etc. Some even go as far as to say as they were developed by aliens, maybe even used as beacons, transportation devices. Yeah, you get the gist. Disney World Secret Tunnels. Since 1971, the 9-acre tunnel complex beneath the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida, has let costume cast members shuttle from one area of the park to another without being detected by visitors. The hidden labyrinth connects locker rooms, dining halls, rehearsal spaces, and ATMs. But over the years, people have tried to attach dark urban legends to Disney tunnels, including rumors of child trafficking, kidnapped children, all that type of stuff. And there's actual footage of someone who managed to sneak into the tunnels without getting caught. Broder's engine. Broder's engine is an engine that gathers energy directly from gravity. It works like shake lights. You put a copper coil around a magnet to generate electricity. Now out 1,000 of them on one side of a long lever. 3 magnets power a tipper that tips the lever over to electrolyze the coils, and the other 997 give energy. Real Intentions of Road to Ruta. We've talked about this one before. It's basically a children's book with a whole bunch of underlying concepts of like capitalism and one world currency, and many people believe that its true purpose is to indoctrinate children into our capitalist society. Yes. The Road to Ruta theory postulates that there is one group of people in the United States as well as around the world that are working to remove and destroy the financial banking powers and have secretly controlled all our aspects of life for hundreds of years and are attempting to induct a one world currency. Abaka alignment. Now, the Russians believe that their probe Luna 9 had photographed some sort of monument on the moon, but NASA wouldn't confirm this verdict. The Spire's photograph stood in the ocean of storms in a formation almost identical to the Abaka alignment that the ancient Egyptians used. In fact, the spires were arranged in precisely the same way as the 3 great Egyptian pyramids on Earth. A couple scientists eventually came to the conclusion that the moon was an artificial satellite of the Earth that had been put into orbit around our planet sometime in the distant past by intelligent beings from another solar system. Bacterial humanity. Now, this is the concept that we as a species are just bacteria. We're parasites to the earth. We're killing it. We're slowly killing the earth, and people might see natural disasters as the earth's way of fighting back against us, or bacteria, the same way your body might fight back against a cold. And an extreme view of this could even see the earth as a bacteria cell and us as little tiny cells inside of, well, space being the body of a larger living organism. Shanya Isum. Now, this is just a rare skin condition that caused a 28-year-old woman to grow nails instead of hair. It was determined that her hair follicles were producing 12 times as many skin cells as hair cells, and this meant that her hair follicles were producing nails instead of hair, and she was the only person in the world with this condition. Most drugs are benevolent. Now, this is the idea that drugs actually help you in a positive way, whether it be mentally or physically, and that the negative propaganda or war against drugs is used to keep people from accessing this high state of consciousness, or in other words, meant to keep you at a low vibration. Bro, this is just fucking theories, alright? Don't go out and try heroin, dude. Crack is okay though. Might want to try some crack. Jews forced to be in power. Now, the idea that Jews won the world can be seen in the fall of Cabal. We've talked about that before, Protocols and the Elders of Zion, but this is the concept that Jews were really forced into power. Now listen to me. Listen. Just look. 1 second. Give me just 1 second and listen, bro. Historically, in medieval Europe, only Jews can loan people money because the There was only one church back then, keep in mind, the Catholic Church, forbade Christians from loaning people money and getting a return through charging interest. Thus, many Jewish people rose to positions of influence in the economy and politically because they can lend merchants and lords money in order to trade and fight wars respectively. If you just look at that statement there, this has been a cause of resentment for centuries, and it has been used by individuals as a means to build up resentment against Jews. Now, this is the historical origin that Jews came in the banking powers, they control the world, all that type of stuff. This is also where most of the stereotypes came from, especially those involving money. But it's the Catholic Church's fault. Oh man. Proto-humans. Proto-humans may refer to archaic Homo sapiens, or a loosely defined classification that includes a number of varieties of Homo australopithecina, which is a collective classification of extinct close relatives of humans, or what we call proto-humans. The proto-humans were bipedal and they were dentally similar to humans, but with the brain size not that much larger than modern apes. Ancient glyphs in Saturn moons. Now there are marks that look like claws from quote-unquote a giant space bird, and peculiar parallel tracks on Saturn's moons Dione and Rhea that have baffled researchers. And y'all can look at it here. You see them? Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, man. Appendix monkey tail. In the context of human evolution, human vestigiality involves those traits occurring in humans that have lost all or most of their original function through evolution. Other structures called the vestigial often appear functionless, and a vestigial structure may retain lesser functions or develop minor new ones. In this case, we have what is called a vestigial tail, which means it's sort of like left over from our evolution. It is visible in embryos, but by the time we're born, we just have a few small bones that can't be seen from the outside. Now, if you reach back and touch on your lower back down to your tailbone, that's where your tail would be, dude. That's where our little monkey tails would be. Occasionally, a baby will be born with a tail, but they are usually removed surgically. Doveland, Wisconsin. Doveland, Wisconsin was supposedly a small town which somehow disappeared in the 1990s. Some people in Wisconsin allegedly have shirts, mugs, souvenirs, etc. from the town, and some even remember it or had relatives that lived there. There is also a digital ghost trace of Doveland in the form of Google search autocorrect and recommended search options, including suggesting the term Doveland, Wisconsin to many users without bringing up any results. No one knows why this has happened. There are theories that it was just a hoax or internet legend, or a town that actually existed before being destroyed by either a large corporation, maybe, I don't know, buying out the land, or by natural disaster, or quite literally just a town that vanished out of existence. Charlie Project. The Charlie Project is a website that profiles over 14,000 cold cases, missing people mainly from the United States. A person must have been missing for at least 1 year to be listed, and yeah, it's nothing really too conspiracy-like revolving around this. It's really kind of morbid and just sad. Concrete enemas. In 1987, 2 doctors reported an unusual case that involved a 20-year-old man who was shown up in the emergency room complaining of rectal pain. Examination of his rectum revealed a hard, stony mass, and eventually the patient disclosed of how the mass had got there. He said approximately 4 hours earlier, he and his boyfriend had been fooling around, and after stirring a batch of concrete mix, the patient laid on his back with his feet against the wall at a 45-degree angle while his boyfriend poured the mixture through a funnel into his rectum. After the concrete mass hardened, it became so painful that he went to the doctor. Remarkably, the doctors were able to remove the concrete mass without any damage to the patient's rectum, and it had formed a perfect cast of the interior of the rectum. Finland doesn't exist. Now, this is kind of a joke. It's a satirical conspiracy theory which holds that the country of Finland does not actually exist, and that the landmass the country supposedly occupies is an open sea. The theory claims that Finland was fabricated in the Cold War by the Soviet Union and Japan to secure fishing rights in an enlarged Baltic Sea. It also incorporates a saying of, have you ever been to Finland, or have you ever met anybody from Finland? And if the answer is no, point proven, it doesn't exist. Grain situation. Now, this is about the grain markets, and yeah, apparently grain prices have jumped like 142% in the last year. Grain farming's going really bad, guys. There's droughts. Planting beans and corn is going pretty well, but grains, man, those grains, guys, you gotta hold those grains while they while they're here. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. All right, dog suicide bridge. Specifically in Dumbarton, Scotland, there's an ornate 19th century bridge called the Overton Bridge. Its claim to fame is pretty sinister. For decades, dating back to at least the 1950s, dogs have been jumping off the bridge that is about 50 feet into a 15-meter ravine. And yeah, nobody knows exactly why the dogs jump off the bridge, but a lot of people believe that it's from like a supernatural force. And in 1994, a 32-year-old father actually threw his own baby, who he thought was the Antichrist, over the bridge. Fucking insane. The guy was arrested, declared insane, and committed to an institution. Number stations. A number station is a shortwave radio station characterized by broadcasts of formatted numbers which are believed to be addressed to intelligence officers operating in foreign countries. The first known use of number stations was during World War I, with the numbers transmitted in Morse code. Number stations were most prolific during the Cold War era, yet many continue to broadcast, and some longtime stations may have even been taken over by different operators. Earth is bigger than the sun. Pretty simple one. This is just the theory that the earth is bigger than the sun. Pro-war Buddhism. Although Buddhist scholars may say there is no justification for war in their teachings, Buddhism has not always separated itself from war. There is historical documentation that in 621, monks from the Shaolin Temple of China fought a battle that helped establish the Tang dynasty. And even in Southeast Asia and Thailand, there have been many Buddhist monastic calls for violence. And in the 1970s, nationalist Buddhist monks argued that killing communists did not violate any of the Buddhist precepts. The militant side of the Thai Buddhism became prominent again in 2004 when the Malay Muslim insurgency renewed in Thailand's deep south. At first, the Buddhist monks ignored the conflict as they viewed it as political and not religious, but eventually they adopted an identity formation as practical realities require deviations from religious ideals. Everest cover-ups. While we know about the Dyalta Pass incident, there is actually another USSR trekking mystery from the 1950s with historical implications. There was a man named Sir Edmund Hillary who took a group of 30 Russian climbers to Tibet in an attempt to conquer one of the most challenging mountains, Mount Everest. It was reported that the group not only sought to be the first one to the top of the world, but also planned to place the statues of Lenin and Stalin at the summit, effectively marking the ultimate communist capstone. However, their fate is still unknown. They all completely disappeared. The USSR even denied that the attempt was made, even aside from sporadic newspaper accounts, and no further records even exist as to what happened to them. Ashtar High Command. The Southern television broadcast interruption was a broadcast signal intrusion that occurred on November 1977, and basically it was a guy who was a speaker, and he delivered a message instructing humanity to abandon its weapons so it could participate in the future awakening and achieve a higher state of evolution. He goes on to rant for 6 minutes and claims to be a representative from the Ashtar High Command.
Come to know the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings on other worlds around you.
Akashic Records. In the religion of Theosophy and the philosophical school called Anthroposophy, the Akashic Records are a compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future, in terms of all entities and life forms. They are believed by Theosophists to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence known as the mental plane, which is a universal plane or reality that is made up of purely thought and consciousness. There are anecdotal accounts of this, but no scientific evidence for the existence of the Akashic Records. Towel Conspiracy. What I could find about this one is that the towels at your local gym are smaller than the ones at your house, not because that they're cheaper to buy and launder, but they want you to think you're fatter than you actually are. That way, they keep you coming back to the gym more and more. And eventually, we'll all just get so skinny that they'll just continue to shrinking towel sizes as a result until we're just handed washcloths. Now, that's one of them I found. Another one is that paper towel dispensers are actually used to spy on people, and they have little cameras in there. It's not a sensor that disperses the paper towel. It's someone behind the camera. They're watching you every time you wave under the dispenser. They're watching you every time you wash your hands. They're watching us right now. Oceans don't exist. This just implicates that oceans don't exist, and it's all just one big fat salty lake. Cloud farming. Now, this just involves a digital cloud where critical farm management information is stored in cloud-based systems, meaning that all data across all platforms are updated at the same time. It's like, think of it as like agricultural data, and an example for this is mining Bitcoin. That's cloud farming, man. You're farming from the cloud. All religions are the same. You heard it right. This is a concept that all religions are the same. Most major religions have references to God or goddesses or multiple gods that have insurmountable power and have developed our existence. And this is just the idea that no religion is correct because, for example, in a polytheistic religion, each one of these gods would encompass a minor part in the truth. Or maybe polytheistic religions inadvertently reference one single god who envelops the best traits and personalities to each of their own claimed gods that exist, or vice versa, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Does it make sense? Like, am I making sense here? Like, geometric algorithmic shortcuts. Tried hard finding this one, I swear, but I couldn't even find an explanation. I found a picture though, I think, but you know what, mate? I'm afraid I'm just too dumb to explain what it means, dude. I don't know. Limbic brain. The limbic system, also known as the paleomammalian cortex, is a set of brain structures located on both sides of the thalamus, immediately beneath the medial temporal lobe. It supports a variety of functions, including emotion, behavior, long-term memory, and all that type of stuff. Emotional life is largely housed in the limbic system and critically aids the formation of memories. It is hypothesized that the limbic system is older than other parts of the forebrain and has developed to manage circuitry attributed to the fight or flight reaction, and it has been considered a major part of survival adaptation in reptiles and mammals. Now, I saw a thought experiment where someone asks you, if you see a saber-toothed tiger, do you fight or do you run? Followed up with the fact that saber-toothed tigers don't exist anymore, so there wouldn't be a reason to fight or run. And considering the scale of time, the brain is still very primitive. And so at what point will the limbic system evolve past the fight or flight response and adapt more into this type of world that we're building? And if so, in what ways would it evolve? Let me give you guys an example. Phobias, fears, they're evolutionary. People are scared of certain things as a survival instinct. You may have arachnophobia because long ago a human was bitten by a venomous one and eventually died from it. This caused people around them to learn spiders are bad, and they should be avoided. It's a subconscious feeling. You look at it and you just might be like, ugh, gross. But in reality, it's your survival instinct. It's bad. You stay away from it. It's the same thing with heights. You stay away from that damn ledge, you'll die. That type of stuff. While these fears are irrational today, they would have helped us survive long ago, and they would have activated your fight or flight responses and helped you make a fast decision in order to stay alive. I know when I see a deep ocean, it kind of creeps me out, and it makes me want to stay out of deep water. I mean, just look at that shit. You don't know what's in there. You don't know what's in there, dude. Creeps me out. In relation to a real fear that people have, it's called thalassophobia. But as time has gone on, I don't think I'll ever find myself stranded in the ocean. I hope not. But living conditions for humans have gotten a lot safer in comparison to how shit was back then. Most of us quite literally aren't experiencing fears in person, but actually behind a screen. So what do we have the need for a fight or flight response? Granted, there are rare and unfortunate cases, mostly perpetuated by other humans, which helps people survive. But now that we're somewhat moving past the need for it, what is the potential that the limbic system holds in store for when it comes to evolution. Valley of the Lost Candles. Now this is about a movie called The Valley of the Dolls, which is about girls that have given themselves up. They would give pieces of themselves away in order to move up into higher standards of living. It was made in contrast of what actually happens in Hollywood, and apparently some of the props in the movie, including candles, were used in actual witchcraft rituals, which went missing after production. And this would lead to the idea that one of the actresses, Sharon Tate, would be cursed following her death in 1969. Malare Desperale. This is about an artist, I forgot his name, damn it, who thought of straight lines being misrepresentations of art and therefore used spirals in his paintings to display human life and death as an art form. It's pretty interesting. Beginning and the end. Emergency Broadcast Neuralizer. Now, have you ever seen Men in Black? Do you remember the neuralizer? Now, have you ever seen Men in Black? Do you remember the neuralizer? This is the idea that emergency broadcasts would have the same effect as the Men in Black neuralizer and would be used as mass brainwashing. So, for example, if people found out about aliens, governments would launch emergency broadcasts that would erase people's memories to cover it up. Advanced cryptozoology. This just takes the idea of existing cryptozoology, goes a little deeper. For example, in cryptozoology, you got stuff like, Sasquatch and the Loch Ness Monster. And once you're advanced, you got stuff like this shit. Bioma over genoma. This is the idea that the biology in your body are more important than your genes, and that those millions and millions of those little bacteria cells inside of you are actually what really make you you, and genes are influenced by the biological makeup of your body. If it makes sense, my boy. The Simpsons is real footage. Yeah, it's the idea that The Simpsons, real footage, real shit. It's real. We're fake. So The Simpsons is real. This is how they could predict the future. They're not actually a TV show. We're the TV show. They're watching us. They're all watching us right now. They're watching you, watching me, watching them. Fuck. Oh, man. Asian Overlords Triad. This is the idea that in regions, and specifically East Asia, Hong Kong, that due to bribery, racketeering, and corruption, the government and political decisions are actually controlled by the Triad, which is basically like an underground criminal organization. Hive mind induction. This is the concept that with the use of technology and the advancement of things like chip implants and maybe even 5G, humanity is being driven to becoming a hive mind. Roman metaphysics. This was the attempt in Roman philosophers in determining what is real in the world. It's kind of trippy, but try and stay with me. Now, there were two main philosophies. The first one being that we must rely on our senses to determine what is actually real, and number two being we must rely on logical reasoning because our senses lie to us. Take a pencil, for example. You could pick it up and you could write with it. It's a pencil. You know it's a pencil. It's got lead. It's got an eraser. It's wooden. You can write with it. Okay, but you can also write with a crown. You can also write with a pen. And you can also write with your own feces. But those aren't pencils. Do you get what I mean? You have to use a mix of both logic and senses to determine what is real and what's not real, what is what and what is something else, You get it. Looking at dark energy. Dark energy, it's a bigger mystery than dark matter, and it causes the expansion of the universe to accelerate rather than to slow down. And there are a few competing hypotheses of what it could be and what it is, but we need more data to find out what it actually is. We're kind of young when it comes to elements in space, so we don't really know. Field consciousness. This is the idea that your body has the senses that obtain data streams from this physical world, and these are sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Now imagine that you're a video game character. Your sight would extend towards walls, objects blocking view, ceiling, and floor. And the sound would be further away from that. You hear birds and ambient sounds, wind, all that. Your touch would be very close, literally your skin. Your taste even closer, just your tongue. And the smell depends on what you can smell and think you smell in a certain range, but will always be received in the nose. And this is the idea that you are not personal to your person. You are in a field that includes it. Your quality of consciousness is the choices and decisions that you make within this field via your human avatar. Any other human being entering your field is a candidate to receive as much as attention and as love as you give your avatar, and you may identify with your avatar and solve its problems, give it rich flavor or personality, and other cosmetics as you would in a virtual game. Don't have an existential crisis about this shit. It's just a theory, man. Relax. Relax. Prison Earth. Let me just put things in perspective for you. Long ago, on the planet Oroxes, there were many species there. There were the Flaganogs, there were the Lampaloons, and most importantly, there were us, the Homo sapiens, living on this planet. Now, if you do some bad shit, the Flaganorths, they get sent to their own planet, and the Lampaloons, they also get sent to their own planet, along with every other species there. If you do some bad shit on that planet, you get sent to prison, which is Earth. Literal hell for Homo sapiens, made specially for us. I just made up all that shit, but you literally, I hope you get the idea. That's what it is, alright? 2006 volleyball incident. Now, supposedly people say there was a mass shooting at a volleyball game in Nebraska or somewhere in the Dakotas, and nobody remembers it. And apparently some 14 to 25 people were killed. People believe this has something to do with the Mandela effect. Most people remember it being at a volleyball game in North or South Dakota, and others remember it being in Utah, Oregon, or Montana. Some people believe that the incident was accidentally made to sound different to everyone, and others believe that all the shootings happened at the exact same time at the exact same event. Chaos banking. This is the idea that we'll go from using paper money as currency to energy to eventually chaos and destruction. And the idea that future beings will go back in time, creating chaos and finding a way to profit and harness the use of temporal energy in order to trade it with others in the future. Inorganic beings. You know that monster that you thought was under your bed, or that bad energy you feel when you're around the wrong people? Those are inorganic beings. That's what people think, at least. But to define it, people believe that the entire universe is composed of twin forces. Forces that are at the same time opposed and complementary to each other. And this is what you feel. It's like energy from the twin world. I don't know if I'm good at explaining this type of stuff, man. I hope you guys are getting it. Damn. I'm tired, dude. Artificial aliens. UFOs, aliens, all that bull poo. A lot of people think it's just, artificial. Man-made. Think about it. Just think about it, Mark. Think. Doom ecology. Now, this is just a positive view that an ecological collapse is the ultimate fragmentational event and one of the few events which can drive the acceleration of capitalism to levels which overtakes the entirety of our reality. To go further with this, an ecological collapse will kickstart the fragmentation to create one whole united species. Sleep deprivation lifestyle. You know what it is. Sleep deprivation. Sleep insufficiency or sleeplessness. The condition of not having enough adequate sleep to support decent alertness, performance, and health. Some people, I think there were a couple videos ago, there were people that drink their own piss. Yeah, this is kind of like one of those. Yeah. Secret Mongolian Empire. Now, the Mongolian Empire stretched from Northeast Asia as far as Eastern Europe when Genghis Khan rose to power in 1206. The Mongols became able to control a very large area of land, and this is the idea that they still have influence mainly in Asia to this day. To put things in perspective, the Mongolian leader Genghis Khan is known to have fathered many children, and a study found that up to 0.5% of the world's population, or around 17 million people, primarily located in Asia, can trace their lineage back to Genghis Khan directly. Kaim IRL. Now, this is just about some Elder Scrolls lore called Kaim, which is apparently a state in which one can break free from all known laws of corruption known as oblivion from the Elder Scrolls. Apparently there's a real process to do this, but a lot of it involves erasing your mind of complete existence, all that. It's weird. Dinosaurs helped build the pyramids. Pretty simple one here. It's just the belief that dinosaurs helped build the pyramids. If aliens didn't do it, the dinosaurs for sure did it. For sure. I could see it. Non-space. Now, this is the conceptual idea that non-space is a void of infinite nothingness where time does not exist. But if non-space did exist, how large would it be? Where can you find it? And if it did exist, how could we exist? It's pretty trippy. It's a trippy concept. Tomoki Umaya. I only found one article about this guy. He is a Japanese contactee and channel who claims to have been receiving messages from space since 1994, in particular from the Pleiades star system. He actually wrote a book that's on Amazon if you want to check it out. If you're into that whole Amazon thing, you fucking capitalist. You read Road to Ruta when you were a kid, didn't you? You motherfucker. You're one of them, man. Anunnaki puppet show. The Anunnaki are a group of deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. In the earliest Sumerian writings about them, which come from the post-Akkadian period, the Anunnaki are deities in the pantheon, and their primary functions were to decree the fates of humanity. Wait a minute, we're the puppets. Your fate is not in your hand. Your fate is not determined by you. It's determined by your environment, which is controlled by the Anunnaki. It's not your fault that you're a capitalist that loves Amazon, dude. You're being watched by The Simpsons right now. Oh my god. You guys know I'm just fucking with you. New Zealand, 8th continent. An 8th continent called Zealandia is hidden under New Zealand surrounding the Pacific, and since 94% of Zealandia is submerged, discerning the continent's age, mapping it is difficult. New research suggests that Zealandia is 1 billion years old and about is twice as old as geologists thought. Nuclear grid theory. Now, there's a theory that there are what are called ley lines that map across the world that have even resulted in ancient civilizations building structures on these ley lines unconsciously as if they were some unnatural force. And this is the idea that after we dropped a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, we created enough energy to create new ley lines, which resulted in more supernatural occurrences on Earth, such as ghosts, UFOs, etc., that have all been lying dormant until the 20th century, which produced more ley lines from the use of nuclear bombs. That's it, man. That's it. We just wrapped up tier 7. Guys, I'm sorry it's been a minute. I haven't posted. I've been busy. Bro. If you watched the whole video, I appreciate it, man. Love you, bro. Love you. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.